Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joy Bourgeois, and I'm super excited to be here with my colleagues for the October 30th session of the Belonging Project. Staying connected during COVID, how to maintain and strengthen critical relationships. So I am here to help us lead a very lively discussion that will center around a coaching session. So live coaching session, and I will do it with one of my closest colleagues from my professional experience, whom I'll introduce in just a second. I'm the Global Director of Diversity and Inclusion at Kirkland & Ellis, and I've been with the firm for about a year. And I'm thrilled to be joining the leadership team at Kirkland with all of the very diversity and the very focused, the professionals who are focused on diversity and inclusion during this moment, which is, I believe, a transformative moment and one in which we all can learn new information, educate ourselves, and come together. I'd like to introduce my colleague and my co-coach, Jennifer Greiner, whom I've known for a very long time, who is the founder and president of Greiner Consulting Group. Greiner Consulting Group has been around for over 30 years. Jennifer will correct me on exactly how many years she's been in business. Yeah, she's smiling, so I didn't get that exactly correct. And we worked together for 17 years. So, you know, this whole program is about relationships, and I can attest to the value and critical nature of relationships based on how Jennifer and I got to know each other. I'm a former practicing lawyer, and I met Jennifer Greiner at a lawyer event many moons ago. And it's really through the course of relationship development and the value of our relationship that I was able to grow into the coach, leadership development coach and legal career coach at Greiner Consulting, and how I was able to transition into diversity and inclusion. It was truly through the leverage and friendship and sharing that I had with Jennifer. So Jennifer, I'll turn it to you so you can introduce yourself and talk more about what we'll do today.
Well, thank you so very much, Joy. I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank the Belonging Project. I was so thrilled to be invited to join this event and to discover what the Belonging Project was all about. And I am so impressed with the energy behind it and the thought that's gone into putting this program together and the launch of the Belonging Project in response to COVID, because I know it's such a critical need that so many lawyers are experiencing around staying connected. And I want to thank Corey Carew, Whitney Stoddard, and Sin Vargas, who have been just so helpful in helping us to put all this together and have created this platform and opportunity for myself and Joy to speak with you all through the coachees, two coachees that we'll be speaking with. So just to, yes, we're not yet in our 30th year, Joy. We are going to hit our 30th year next June. So that is quite a milestone, which I'm looking forward to. But Joy and I, yes, we had the opportunity to come together. I had been leading a career development coaching firm for about a decade, but by myself. And so I was a solopreneur at the time, and working with all the, with many of the top firms in helping attorneys to both transition and grow into new roles and greater areas of responsibility within their firms, but also helping them to transition to other opportunities outside of the firm if they were hitting a personal point of their own personal glass ceiling, which can happen anywhere along the way. I met Joy, funnily enough, there's a real through line to Joy's story, because I met Joy at something called the Practicing Attorneys for Law Students, which at that time was one of the early programs in New York City linking practicing lawyers with diverse law students to help them get a handle on what they were getting into and to guide them in the whole process of interviewing for firm opportunities and onboarding. And Joy was, maybe a second or third year associate at the time, and she was right in there, volunteering her time and really paying attention to the younger attorneys who were coming after her. In fact, I remember the event was at Sullivan and Cromwell. So that was an event that changed my life, without a doubt, meeting Joy. And we developed a relationship. As Joy said, the relationship that we've had is actually longer than we probably did first met, 27. I don't even know how long years ago. But we kept in touch, and Joy I joined Joy's career advisory board, in a very informal way, and then in a slightly more formal way. But we became friendly, and we would meet for lunch. And at some point, Joy had made a number of transitions that really made her such an ideal person to start talking to attorneys about their own development. And we found an opportunity in, I think, 2000 to join forces. And Joy really, when I say changed my life, I mean that in every way, personally and professionally, because Joy came in and took this business that was doing well, but it was, a solo shop. And Joy came in and really lit the world on fire. And how she did that, starting with leveraging the relationships that she built from her very first firm at Rogers and Wells. So that she changed my whole perception, even about what my business was about, because I think I was very focused on the merit of what I do, and just doing a great job sort of quietly. And Joy said, no, we need to get out there and spread the word in a much more of a broadcast format, and we need to go and make more friends. Exactly. It's not just about doing a great job. It's about spending time with the people who you work with and work for, so that they can come to have a better understanding of who you are and what you're about, and you can attune yourself much more closely to what it is they need. And the great story here, and I'll finish with this, is that the first year that Joy was on board for this small one-man shop, now two, we landed 10 giant law firms. I mean, at the time they were giant, and they still are, but now they're even bigger. 10 in the first 12 months that we teamed up. So I've learned so much from Joy, and I'm so grateful to see and watch and be part of her trajectory and her movement into the DE&I space for the last several years now. And it's just a pleasure to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jennifer. Let's go to the next slide, please. So, Jennifer spoke a lot about me and what the power of our relationship. And I would like to just say that the coachees for today's live coaching session really are in for a treat. So we are going to split the time into two 20-minute coaching sessions. And we'll have just a bit of time at the end for question and answer. I hope that we can, Jennifer and I will be able to have a dynamic coaching conversation to really present and highlight the challenges that exist every day in this COVID environment, but also the opportunities that are there. So, we'll talk about what is difficult, but we'll also talk about what can, try to find the good in what's going on during this time. So let's go to the next slide. I'll introduce our first coachee. So here's more about Jennifer and me. We were together. There's more about my background, so we'll pass that. And let me just say about Jennifer, she was incredibly modest. There probably is no other coach in the country who has as much experience as Jennifer. And I'd like to say, given our coachees today, that she has very unique perspective into what it's like to be a diverse attorney. Many of the attorneys that Jennifer coached over decades have been diverse, have been women, have been people of color, and of course part of the LGBTQ community. And she has particular insights, and I think understands the unique challenges that women and diverse attorneys face in our industry. Given what's happened this summer and given the very distinct client call that's happening right now for progress and change, and with respect to law firms, the real need to see more women, more people of color, and more LGBTQ practitioners on deals and on matters, they all can really benefit from coaching. Everyone can benefit from coaching, but Jennifer, has and continues today to provide this wonderful mix of expertise, of humanity, and of understanding, what these particular groups are facing. So, I know that it is a bit of a love fest, because once, that's the wonderful thing about relationships. People come together, they go on their separate ways, but we'll talk about, the important touch points and the humanity that underlies relationships. So, it is truly a wonderful thing to have the kind of relationship that Jennifer and I have, and that we'll hopefully uncover with our two coachees. Next slide. So generally speaking, Jennifer and I will cover these two broad topics in broad strokes. Here's kind of where we are, where we start, but we would like to focus on the first session with how.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to everyone. My audio went completely off, so I am back now with Mike. So thank you very much, Mike.
Okay, perfect. Great. So for the first coaching session, the topic is how you're staying in touch with mentors and sponsors while working remotely during COVID. And I'll introduce the first coachee. And the second topic is, what are you doing to maintain and advance client relationships during COVID? What challenges are you facing in forging new relationships and continuing to build your professional profile while working remotely? And I'll just say one thing before we go to the next slide in our first coachee. This law business it's about relationships. It's a business of relationships. So relationships are truly everything. And I know that Jennifer and I, in our respective roles, inside and outside of law firms, really try to focus on how all people, but certainly diverse lawyers, because those are our coachees are diverse lawyers, how they can harness that power and understand where they can find relationships in everything, relationships in getting work, relationships in building and impressing the internal clients in law firms. Those are the partners, and of course the external clients. So this is a wonderful topic to coach on and to have this conversation during this difficult time, but again, one of opportunity. Next slide, please. So again, coaching session 1 is we're going to focus on how we're staying in touch with mentors and sponsors while working remotely during COVID. Let me just see the next slide quickly. Okay, we'll go back to the first slide. Okay, so for this session, I'd love to introduce our coachee, NK Dagwu. She is a fantastic colleague of mine at Kirkland & Ellis. She's been at the firm for almost not quite 2 years, NK can correct me, as the Associate Director of, and she's currently the Associate Director of Attorney Engagement and Integration. Did I get that right, NK? Yeah. So her role has evolved, her position has evolved, and she really has a unique position. So NK is a former practicing lawyer, full-time, and she's been at several other firms. For the moment, she has a very small practice role, but really focuses on coaching, not just diverse lawyers, but all lawyers. When NK first arrived at Kirkland, the focus of her role, and again, NK, correct me if I'm wrong, was on managing workflow, utilization, and kind of accessing opportunity for all associates. obviously, when we're talking about work and access to work, there is a D&I component to that work. And NK developed an amazing reputation for herself, did an amazing job, not just addressing certain issues around the assignment process that we see in law firms as really a systemic problem with respect to diverse lawyers and professional development, but also in building relationships, really critical relationships with the partners involved in the assignment process and the attorneys who were trying to get equal access to opportunity. So NK, welcome. And I'd love to hear from you. What would you like to focus on for the next 15 to 18 minutes or so? How are you staying in touch with your mentors and sponsors? How are you coaching others to do so? And what would you like to focus on first? What questions do you have for me and Jennifer?
Well, first, I want to thank you for having me. I'm really grateful to be a part of this program. I think it's incredibly important. I have been with Kirkland for 2 years, and I did start October of 2018 as a practice integration manager, which is a new department that I got to build, and then became associate director just recently. It's been a very interesting year with COVID, and I think that we're working remote. I think it would be great to start with maybe coaching and working with the attorneys and navigating this difficult time, particularly the diverse attorneys.
I'm curious, and Kate, and I should share with everyone, a lot of the work we do in the coaching realm in the last few years has been focused on diverse attorneys and women and diverse attorneys. But there are any number of programs that we've done with a whole cohort of coachees who are selected to be part of a coaching process to assist them with these very topics and to really help them to be very intentional about their careers, and they're paired with mentors or formal sponsors. And we work with them in navigating those relationships and to really maximize those relationships. But one of the things that I'm wondering if you're seeing is with the younger attorney population, we are seeing across many different firms that we work with, a lot of younger lawyers have moved. They're not only out of the office, but many of them have moved back home. Many of them are moved to another place entirely to be closer to someone or other, or their apartment was just too expensive, or they didn't feel safe in their city, whatever it might be. So what we've seen is not just a loss of the connection with their work environment, but for a lot of them, a loss of connection to all that grounding of even their own homes. And I'm wondering if you're seeing that and how you see that impacting that connectivity with their mentors and with their colleagues. And
so I am seeing that. I think I'm not sure if all the attendees are in New York or from New York, but New York is a transient city. So once everything happened, a lot of the attorneys who were living here by themselves, and they had families in different states and different countries even, left the city to be around people. A lot of them live alone, they work, and that connection and that human connection, they got a lot of that from work, which makes sense. We spend a lot of time, at work, especially as lawyers. So a lot of people left, and I think we all know that as human beings, we were meant to be around other people, and they needed that connectivity. What I'm seeing now, how that has impacted relationships with mentors and sponsors and things. It looks different, right? So now, instead of going by somebody's office and having a conversation, or just or just having a meeting about a transaction, or having coffee just to talk about what's going on, those things have now moved to a remote space. And some of the difficulties in that many people are in different time zones. Many people have different family situations, or may not have the I don't want to say adequate space, but additional background that, like, noises and things like that. So, you see kids crawling into, a session that when you're meeting with your mentor, or talking to a partner, or so, like, for example, I was telling Joy, I had to change my location because my doorbell will ring, and I don't know if that's I didn't want to interrupt this program. So I changed location so it wouldn't interrupt. So I think that's some of the difficulties that we're navigating, finding the space, finding the time. A lot of the attorneys and mentors and sponsors also having to deal with childcare and different things. All these considerations make this a bit more challenging.
Mm-hmm. And so the mentoring and sponsoring during pre-COVID times, when you don't have a public health crisis, is hard enough. Right. For everyone, but certainly particularly for women and diverse lawyers in law firms. And I'm sure the participants and Jennifer, and I and Corey and the teams, see this all the time. Mentoring is a challenge. And so what advice would you want from Jennifer and me on kind of what you could do to focus the mentoring relationships that you've developed, and what help might you need when you're talking to the attorneys at Kirkland in staying connected and strengthening a mentoring relationship that hasn't really been developed. Do you have any questions around that, or what in that realm?
Well, I think the question that I have is, I think we've been in this since March, 7 or 8 months. We've been utilizing the same tools, and I think some of these things are getting stale. Like, do we Zoom fatigue and everything else like that, and it looks like we're going to be remote for quite some time. So how do we reinvent those how can we be creative in connecting with mentors and sponsors, and continuing those relationships? I feel like at this point, and I started to feel like this maybe in the last couple of weeks, because we're like hitting that 6-7 month mark, and maybe some people have felt this earlier, maybe some people feel this later, but it's getting tiring, right? You want to figure out a different way to connect with folks, and it's challenging.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, this is one thing I've heard, and I'd love to hear from you, Jennifer. So while we are in this, pandemic, we're doing things differently. I know that people are zoomed out. I can see, like literally, right? And I think there's some new platforms that are coming, and hopefully the firms will introduce those platforms to us. Certainly ones that focus on networking and networking circles. I think there's something called Remo. So, yes. Kirkland has introduced it very sparingly, the small group. So we'll see what happens there. And I imagine, since, this remote environment is going to continue for, I don't know how, for the foreseeable future, there'll be more of those kinds of things. So here's an old-fashioned idea. I tell people, and I would tell you, NK, and I think this is good advice to tell, other associates, pick up the phone. Yeah. Just pick up the phone. And I know that for millennials and for, the younger generation, it's, there's a focus on electronic communication. Everything is, everything is electronic.
Yeah,
and hearing a person's voice is a really good way to connect with their humanity. We are all struggling. We are all, figuring out this virtual landscape. And certainly with many diverse lawyers, there have been statistics that have shown that we are impacted at an even greater level. And, I know from personal experience and from speaking to my colleagues who are diverse that, almost I don't know what the statistic is, and so I'm not going to, we use a lot of stats here, but almost everyone I know who's diverse knows someone who's sick or knows someone who's died from COVID, or knows someone who's really being impacted in a terrible way. And this reality that we're facing, in addition to everything else that diverse lawyers face, and women, what working parents are going through right now and the difficulties around that, I think that there's a vulnerability that we can reach, connect with people on. Everyone's feeling a little vulnerable, and therein lies the opportunity. So I know that Kirkland Partners have done a great job reaching out to our diverse lawyers and to our women, and to really providing a super supportive network. And so, and Hannah, I know you do this, and in your role, you've got to do it, but I would recommend that, diverse lawyers reach out. And people are reaching out to them. I know, I hope, and we want to continue that. But there's always a proactivity that's very important. And the mentoring relationship, specifically, I always say that mentees have to drive the relationship. So people should, reach out to your mentor, maybe text that person that's using the phone kind of, in a way that young people like, but even pick up the phone and call them. When I get a phone call, when I get a voicemail, it's so interesting. And I like to pick up the phone and I leave voicemail messages for people. And I realize that younger people are annoyed by that, even partners. But it's a different kind of thing. And it's a unique thing that you have in a sea of emails. So, just connecting with the humanity. What would you say, Jennifer, on that point?
Well, yeah, I think there are a couple of things that I've suggested around, the Zoom out. The firms are doing such a great job with a lot of, Friday cocktail hours and different programs to keep the associates especially engaged and threaded in and stay connected. And all kinds of virtual wine tastings and but one of the things I recommended to just actually a partner I'm coaching, who is the managing partner of her office, she herself was feeling that sense of stale and that disengagement, and the hour went to a half hour and people started dropping out after 15 minutes. And I said, how about, it's not a big office, maybe 30 people, 40 people, something like that. And so we came up with a rotation of pairings. And the idea was that instead of joining in the big group, that you get to know someone in your office that you don't normally know, you don't know well, and spend an hour in whatever way you want with them. Spend it on the phone, spend it walking. I recommended this was when the weather was a little bit warmer. Take a walk together on the phone with, somewhere that you're not listening together, but you are together and you're sharing a different kind of experience. Or, you can watch a show together. But the whole idea was to both shake it up, but to also create tighter threads between individuals. And then through that rotation, build a little bit more of a sense of community and connectedness, where people feel responsible to that half hour or 45 minutes because they've made a commitment to one person. And we're in this for the long haul, so we have some time to do it. And what was nice too is that meant that some partners were having that virtual meeting, a virtual get together with sometimes, an administrative assistant or the office administrator or the receptionist. So it had the silver lining is it has this platform. I feel like also gives us some opportunities to even the playing field a little bit. But I also think that that one of the ways, speaking, Joy, to your feeling in mind that mentees need to drive the relationship. NK, I think we spoke a little while back, and you were saying there's a vulnerability, but there's more. We have more personal knowledge of our coworkers, our colleagues, our mentors, and our sponsors. We know what kind of dog they have.
Yes.
So
Okay.
we
Them.
know the screech of that dog. So the mentees, I mean, I think if you're talking with individual, younger lawyers and your associate population, how can they use what they've learned to share information about, there's an article about the kind of video games that, 7-year-old boys love. Well, that are constructive, send that along to really be thinking, how do I share information or ideas, or how do I use in a very positive way what I know about this person and maybe what struggles they're also going through in balancing all these, all these realities of working remotely. Because showing for when a mentee or a formal or informal, because if you're working for a senior attorney to yourself, and that could be a senior associate or a counsel, whatever you're doing to just ease their load or stay just engaged with other parts of their lives, it strengthens the professional relationship. And I think sometimes that's easier. I hear a lot from younger lawyers, well, what can I possibly do? What can I possibly do for someone? I'm just so new or young, or they have so much position, and well, there are actually so many things. I mean, young people also, maybe you could be helpful on some technical problem that some more senior associate or counsel partner is having on. So I think it's a lot about dialing the radar and really paying attention to what you're learning about some of the people you're working with to just make little deposits,
Yeah, to kind of dare to be a little, more personal, than maybe a mentee would have been with the mentor, and ask about the mentor's kids and, where the mentor is living now. And, obviously not about, more negative personal circumstances, but, how they're doing in this time of COVID.
Yeah.
Just having a human connection.
That question about,
I think probably staying flexible, because so many of the partners who do have families, their working lives are so altered. It's, can you coach your people to, how are the associates that you're working with remaining nimble and flexible to when they have that need? I mean, I was speaking with a partner I'm coaching for transition yesterday. He has a special needs son. And last year, the teachers were coming, and this year they're not. And he's kind of locked into the school. His son is in the room with him between 9 and 12. His wife is a teacher, and they're working on all these arrangements, but it's making it very difficult for him because he's really unavailable for this prime morning time. And so he's asking things of the associates later or earlier. And so, unfortunately, I think that onus is on the team members to also see what they can do and to be nimble, but also if they offer that flexibility, they can ask for it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to be super mindful of the time. You chat with friends and it just flows right along. So thank you so much, NK, and your perspective is super helpful, and we are thrilled to have you at Kirkland helping all of our associates, but certainly the ones in New York. So thank you.
So let's be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks. Let's go to slide 2 so we can go to our second session with our other where our other our esteemed coachee, and Sade, you're going to have to I didn't rehearse your name. Is it Sade Scahan?
That's exactly right.
Oh, wow, that was yes. I know. Sometimes I could be good. I try to really think about these things.
Very impressive.
Okay, names are important, but I did look you up, and so I thought about it. So for our coaching session number 2, focused on you, Jennifer and I would love to help you and think with you about what you're doing to maintain and advance client relationships during COVID. You're an 8th year associate, right? 8th year.
Yes.
Right? Labor and employment lawyer. So what challenges are you facing in, maintaining your relationships that you do have, right, with clients, but also forging new ones, and how you're continuing to build your professional profile while working in this, very strange work from home, remote environment. So love to introduce you and hear a little bit about what you'd like to focus on in this very broad question. But Jennifer and I are here and are listening, and we're all ears. Welcome.
Thank you. So I heard some really great suggestions already in the first coaching session, but I think part of the challenge during this COVID time when everyone is at home is kind of being creative with reaching out to clients and potential clients, and also having it feel organic, because, just sending like an email or something is very impersonal. So ways to do the phone calls or the replacements for the lunches or seeing each other at conferences that still feel very natural as a way to connect with people.
Yes. Well, Sade, I was noticing that you've made a couple of lateral moves, and you've had some really interesting internships earlier in your career, at the very beginning of your career, and you look like, having made a couple of moves, I'm guessing you have quite a nice network, and and you also mentioned in your material that you have some leadership roles in some networking organizations. So it sounds like you're pardon me, it sounds like you're very much in the rhythm of this, and you were in the rhythm of this. You were lunching clients and potential clients, you were meeting people at conferences, you were attending conferences and events, and you were sort of in the mix and you were in motion, right?
Right.
And then this hits and it sort of takes you out of that rhythm and takes you out of the realm of that mixing and mingling. And as you say, but especially, organically, well, one of the things that I was thinking when I saw that was the question you wanted to focus on was, to start with kind of a real methodology around who would be normally on your lunch roster, or normally on your coffee roster, or normally on your an after work drink roster. Who are the 20, 30, 40 people, like to look back at the previous year, who were you meeting, and start with those people to make sure that what you've built, you've captured these people into your network in a sense. How do you, so to start by calendaring, they are, this month I've got 6 people that I want to touch, or I've got 10 people, or I've got 4 people, but literally taking last year's calendar and putting it onto a monthly goal sheet that says, come by hook or by crook, that's a very old fashioned expression, but
Yes, it is.
one way or another, I'm going to find something that I'm going to do, I'm going to find some way of connecting. So, it can be, this or that client loves cupcakes. So you schedule let's have that really weird strawberry plum cupcake, send one to their home, if they're local, and plan a coffee cupcake half hour together, and you could even make a visually interesting little invitation. But think of there are things that you can do. I think it's a lot about being intentional to start, and setting the goal, putting those people in that month's, you must do something with them.
Yeah.
And then trying different things. One of the things that you can also do, maybe maybe one of these clients or potential clients, they love dance. Well, a lot of dance performances, some of the dance performances are actually taking place in theaters without people, just like sporting events are taking place in stadiums that are empty. So could you invite somebody to the airing of a dance performance that you would both attend, virtually, or you'd both attend, just not at the same, not seated next to one another, and then, be able to talk about how amazing that was. So I think it's focusing on different things that are shared experiences, or, there are online cooking classes you can go to together, or again, that simple idea of, I feel like sometimes a gerbil. I've got my Peloton to the right. I've got my yoga mat. You know, I mean, I'm in a space right now that's quite funny. It's small, and you know, everything is happening in this one little space. So sometimes it's also nice to do, you know, do what I was suggesting, which is let's take, you know what, I need to take a walk and get out of this space. Would you like, you know, client A or prospective client B, do you want to grab a half hour at, you know, 8 o'clock Thursday morning and let's just get ourselves outside for a walk before, you know. So that's some of what might be useful to give a try, give it a go.
And you know what, Sade, you know, all of what Jennifer said is so important. And I remember when we worked together, one thing we would try to do is, you know, that idea of forming a habit, you know. So she said, Jennifer's talking about, you know, having goals, but schedule time during the week. You know, it's hard to do during the day, although it depends on how you, I'm not sure, how do you kind of schedule time? Do you have like a to-do list? Do you have, you know, if you're like me, I have like 3 calendars, you know, how do you schedule time, for example?
I use calendars. I do an electronic calendar, and then I'm also a paper person, so I have a hard copy calendar as well.
Good. So you can be really intentional and just like try to form the habit of scheduling time that you're going to focus on this, and you're going to think about how to do it. And you think about these relationships that you have that, you know, maybe are very developed with clients that you're working with a lot, clients that you don't work with a lot, and then people you want to know, prospective clients. So I think that's, it's got to be a part of what you're thinking of, certainly every week, right? So schedule time and be intentional, you know, along the lines that Jennifer was saying. And I think that, you know, you had mentioned the idea that, you know, you want it to be organic. You want it to feel like it's natural, right? Like it's kind of the evolutionary piece. So definitely assessing where you are on the relationship spectrum with your clients and your colleagues and your contacts, you know, and you can even, as you're scheduling time, give every contact a, what do we used to call it, Jennifer? Because we did sales together, kind of a rating, kind of what is the contact or what is the client? Is this a client you talk to all the time? So you have, you know, ratings that you assign.
Are they close? Are they kind of, you know, are they an acquaintance? Are they quite a close connection? Are they,
Yes.
are they, you know, primed to want to work with you soon? Have they already talked about potential projects that they would need to bring you in on?
Exactly.
Or have they already worked with you and brought you in? Are they clients that you've brought? Are they clients of the firms? Yeah, to categorize, color code, and it sounds like, and funnily enough, when you are that methodical, when you really do that kind of preparation, you can be organic because you're going to be thinking of that person, not this writ large networking, but that individual. And I like that, you know, again, you were already in the habit of taking people to lunch. So I think that's a time that you're used to using. So how about, you know, using that time? And then I think too, anything, you know, there's so much good work to be done. You know, there's work in food banks. There are all kinds of different things that you can also, you could gather, you know, the conferences they're going to be much harder to yield the same results when we can't be there in person. So I think smaller groups, and you're already part of you have some leadership role in some networking groups, at least one you mentioned here. But, you know, are there issues? Like, is there an issue that there's a do-good project that you could organize and invite 5 or 6 or 10 of your potential clients, you know, to brainstorm how, you know, a fundraising event, and bring those people who don't always know one another together and be at the center? Is one of the most powerful tools in building out, you know, your relationships in a client base is to be the connector of other people, to be in, because you're the center, you're the, you know, you are in the you're in the bullseye and everything can radiate out from you.
Absolutely.
So I think thinking about, like, what would that be for you? Like, what would some, you know, feel good, do good sort of area of interest, what would be something that would animate you where you could take this kind of initiative and leadership role and invite some people onto a project, to an endeavor or an initiative?
I like volunteering with kids in need. So in one of the organizations I'm a part of, we already do a little bit of that, but I really enjoy, whether it's a coat drive or volunteering to help deliver food for Thanksgiving or anything like that, I really enjoy doing.
Great, because Thanksgiving is coming up.
Right. No, absolutely. And, and Jennifer brought up a hugely important concept that I wrote down that I have to definitely say today, that idea of being a connector. So you can connect people in the way that, you just described. You can connect people who are in the same kind of, for something that's not having to do with the practice of law. But, and you can obviously connect people to for events and things that happen around all of the conferences that are going to be happening over the next year. We just got, I don't know, did you attend CCWC, for example?
I didn't, but I am planning to attend next year.
Good. And I think it'll be, CCWC is Corporate Council of Women of Color, and it was virtual this year, just like virtually every other conference. Right. So you can plan to, not attend, but to, just reach out to people and say, hey, you're going to do this conference, you're going to plan to do that, or, and then if people, that you're in touch with and clients and colleagues and contacts show interest, then find out how you can connect them, but just that idea of being a connector helps you be incredibly connected. And then two quick things I wrote down because I do it a lot at Kirkland. And we should absolutely make sure, and I didn't do this, and it's my mistake. Seyfarth Shaw has resources, and that's where you're a senior associate, has all kinds of resources. I mean, a huge resource is Corey Carew. Corey is an amazing connector. She's probably, I would say one of the most famous D&I professionals.
I was going to say she's famous.
She is totally famous. She has a wonderful TED Talk. D&I is a thing right now. How can you connect with clients around D&I? Clients are super, super interested in diversity and inclusion. I would say today now more than ever. We had this summer, we had, all of the events and around the work from home environment. This is a way that you can connect with clients. You have a very good profile that I think clients are really looking for, and they want to see you grow as a leader. So I think you can figure out how to leverage D&I right now, because it's a really good time to do that. So
can I jump in to say too, Sade, your practice area of employment, management representation of employment, well, who hasn't had to go to their employment lawyer for new COVID regulations, for privacy, work from home, technology questions, for just motivation and equity, DEI issues around remote work from employment. So how, what sort of also habit or schedule are you in right now of checking in with your clients and your would-be clients? What's happening, with those great questions of what's on their plate now? What do they anticipate? Is there anything they're struggling with? Is that part of your work week or work month, that kind of regularly scheduled checking in, reaching out?
It is, but usually I just do it when something big comes out. Like, for example, California just signed a new pay equity law, which is going to be huge. So I reached out to a lot of my clients for that, saying, just wanted to make sure this is on your radar. This just got signed. Let me know if you have any questions. But, I typically only do that if something really significant happens. I'm not in the habit of saying, oh, just checking in to see if you need anything.
Well, with the pandemic and with the work from home and with what Joy's sharing about the climate right now.
Yeah, you can share info.
And again, it isn't that everybody gets that call, but ask yourself, who are 10 people who I have the kind of relationships with where they appreciate my reaching out to say, how is it going? How's it going for you? How's it going in your role? Is there anything, that you can ask more broad, even more broad-based questions than that, but just see, how are you doing,
Right.
and then what's on your plate? How is your, how is your company, or how is this whole work from home format impacting some part of something that about their business?
Yeah. And another, no, absolutely. And quickly, this just kind of in keeping with the theme of what feels right, what feels organic. So you were at how many other firms? I think you made one lateral move, right? Two. So you have two firms. So you have definitely a network, an alumni network from that other firm. Seyfarth has an alumni network as well, because you're now a Seyfarth person, but you also are University of Minnesota Law School alumna, and an SMU, or you have a BBA, but you also have an SMU business school, degree. So you have all of those networks that are there, and those are important clubs that you want to tap into. And whether it's a BALSA connection within those institutions, because I'm sure that they exist, or there are labor and employment groups from University of Minnesota Law School. Use those networks, and you can leverage them very organically. Do you still keep in touch with people from any of these places?
I do.
Great. Yeah. So it's a great way for you to connect with them and see how they're doing, and connect them to others, for the conferences, and even LinkedIn. Use this time to be really thoughtful about staying connected to people on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is there, and people are certainly using it still.
Sharing articles, right? And writing short pieces.
Blogs.
Thinking about the brand part of you, is you're at that precipice of potentially the next level. So being beginning to be someone who people think of as, oh, they've got the handle on that, or thought leading. They're really following this aspect of of a development in employment law. And I would also add that within, I don't know what the conferences are that you go to, but are there some that are very specifically industry focused, or smaller conferences? Yeah, like what? Do you have a lot of industry focus in? Maybe do you have an industry focus in the entertainment industry, or in?
So more so on like practice focus. So National Employment Law Council, NELC, that's a really popular one that I like to go to. And then CMCP, California Minority Council Program.
Great.
As well.
Always seek to try to gain a leadership foothold in whatever way you can. So try to see if you can be on the board or lead in any way in any of those organizations, and speak, write for them. It is those organizations, which are very practice specific, are built-in networking machines.
Right. So, but also think about the industries. Like, are there clusters? Are there certain industries? Healthcare industry that's turning to Seyfarth in your practice? Is entertainment? Is biotech? I don't know what it might be, but to try to build, because if you have you start to build a name, within certain industries, they talk to one another. So for if you're in media, and you have employment issues, you got to talk to Sade. So you want to get into that. You also want to focus not just on the practice area, especially in groupings and networking and organizations, but also how you can sort of wind your way into some industry association. Is it private equity, or is it energy, or whatever it might be that dovetails well with the kind of work you do that you're already doing for clients in specific industries.
So Sade, do you have a last question for us? Because we have 3 more minutes, and we want to try to take one question from the participants if we can.
Let's see, last question. So when it comes to reaching out to maybe contacts who I haven't been in touch with in the last couple of months, what's the best way to open up with that?
Over email or on the phone, or either?
Either.
I don't think that anybody is, if you haven't been in touch for a few months, that's not very long. So, you can ask how, you can certainly ask how, if anybody has children, how the back to school is going, how they're, what they're thinking, hope they're going to be able to work in some aspects of the holiday season. It's something that's just kind of break the ice, but it's not, I don't think the ice doesn't sound very solid in just a few months. So it can be pretty natural. I hope, just hoping that things have been going well over the last few months since we last connected. Or hoping weathering the roller coaster of living in 2020. And I say 2020 twice because we are also in a groundhog. So, but feel free to reach out. If there are further questions, I'm sure we'd be happy to chat some more. So Joy, you're going to turn this over to a question or so from an audience.
I think so. If there's one of our SciFarth team members can let us know if there's a question from the audience that we can address.
The questions are on the right-hand side of your WebEx window. If you just hit the arrow button next to the Q&A, there is one question in there right now.
Oh, okay. Do you see it, Jennifer? Is there some?
I'm going to put my glasses on.
If anyone can see it, read it.
I can read the question out.
Thank you,
the question was, how should brand new professionals approach creating networks, especially if they were hired during the pandemic and when everyone was working remotely?
How should what professionals?
Brand new professionals.
How should brand new professionals?
Oh, brand new professionals.
Start building networks.
Yeah.
If they started, especially if they started during the pandemic, you mean, okay.
Yeah. Quickly. I would say, LinkedIn, and being thoughtful about LinkedIn and how to stay connected, and starting with alumni, alumni who are a little bit older, people who are from the same institution. I think that's, an easy way to kind of start to get known and start to figure out, kind of what it's like to be a full-time professional. Jennifer, have anything on this?
If these are first years, making sure you're plugging into everything that is available, but also, you don't have to go that much more senior. Find some work buddy, some sort of, some person who's just a year or two ahead of you within your firm, and ask them to, kind of make them your integration buddy. Make them, try to build some sort of rapport with them that they can, lead you to other people that you can start building. Relationships with. I think it's both a LinkedIn and some of the larger things you can do to connect with more people, but it's also a sort of brick by brick, building one relationship at a time, and asking others who've started at the same time, and asking your firm if they have any kind of programming or any sort of grouping, or could they create a cluster of people who've just come to the firm in the since the pandemic started, or they've just started and they're all first years or first and second years, and can we have sort of a monthly brainstorming or get together just to build relationships with one another and see what's working for others around how to building out a network and becoming more integrated. I think we are out of time.
We are out of time. Thank you so much, Corey Carew, and everyone at SciFarth Shaw. Thank you so much, Sharday Skahane. Good luck with you in your future, and to NK Budagwu. And thanks, Jennifer, for sharing your time. And good luck to everyone. We're in this together, and we hope you stay safe and well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.